Hi there, I'm Z and I'm here with you to check what testing tools we have for large language models. And this is the part 2 of that video series. We will explore DeepEval. Before we jump right in, I would really recommend to subscribe to my channel and push on the like button if you like my video in your opinion, and see what today brings to us. Now, if I'm right, you can see my screen, don't you? So, the tool is DeepEval. It has been developed by Confident AI. I did some quick read through of the documentation, but let's learn about it. There's a pretty good documentation. When I just clicked through the main parts, this tool can do a lot, which we wouldn't, or which I'm sure that we won't cover during that session, but we will have something at least. And I think I will follow that path, that what I did previously with the NLTK in the previous Friday live session, that we did something, or I did something in the live session, and afterwards I completed it, let's say, off video, and I shared the results when the edited video was out. I prepared ChatGPT. I'm not sure that we will use this tool this time, but I also prepared the repository for testing large language models, which is in this actual state. So it has the NLTK evaluation py file and the Olama crash test dummy py file. Here we are. Yeah, just going through the steps. Install DeepEval. Yeah, it will install soon. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's this DeepEval library is developed by the Confident AI. We can log into Confident AI. I wouldn't like to do that at that moment, and it really suggests that create my first test case. To install in the meanwhile I create test example. Doesn't really matter. Let's name it as DeepEval sandbox py. Has some description. Yeah, that this is the input, and yeah, it's suggesting a comment that replace this with the actual output of your large language model application, which we have. And answer relevancy metric is the default metric provided. Okay, you will need to set your OpenAPI key as an environment variable before running the answer relevancy metric, since the answer relevancy metric is an LLM evaluated metric. Before we start trying out what's there, I really should mention this, because DeepEval all of the inbuilt metrics using OpenAI, whatever model which we would like to use, but it by default uses GPT-4, GPT-4o, and that's the reason why we need to include the OpenAI API key, or not include but set as an environment variable. So that was my preparation for that live, that I created an OpenAI API key, and I added that to the environment variable. I'm not sure that you know how it works. You need to fund your account. It took maybe 3 or 4 hours after I could even do anything, but now it's okay, it's working, I've tested it. So DeepEval has been set. We have DeepEval sandbox. Let's not involve the large language models right now, just this, and see what happens. And it suggests to execute that DeepEval test run. Test will not run. Please ensure the file starts with the test prefix. Now it's working. Oh, it's a really complex output. Past 3 warnings. Can I see the warnings? Maybe I can. Test case answer relevancy score is 1, 0. The score is an answer perfectly relevant with no irrelevant statements, error none, status passed, overall success rate. It's nice. Yeah, let's pick a metric, for example, for the hallucination. Yeah, it's widely heard, the hallucination behavior of the large language models. It would be great to check that metric. The hallucination metric determines whether the LLM generates factually correct information by comparing the actual output to the provided context. I assume about that we should provide a context to the input, and it decide that the output of the large language model to that input is according to that context, and it compares how much. So the 6 optional parameters when creating a hallucination metric is threshold, float representing the maximum passing threshold, how it's calculated, total number of contexts, and the number of contradicted contracts divided. Let's try that, I really would like to see. And now let's use at least one of the deployed large language models. They will use an input for that particular test. Maybe we can just use our very first test prompt, and the input is input. The context is this statement is negative in sentiment, and the actual output it need to be maybe we can use that and copy that file, because the execute prompt in that file can be used because it returns the response of the given large language model, and it waits for the input. Basically that's it. Include that in the actual input, and that is a metric, and evaluating and waiting for the response. Okay, right, you're running DeepEval's latest hallucination metric is 0, because yeah, the hallucination is 0. It's not strict. The score is 0 because there is no factual alignments or contradictions indicating a hallucination, because the input was to classify that text, the actual output, the sentiment of the statement is negative, the speaker expresses blah blah blah. There was no expected outcome set, but the context has been set. P3 got that right. Let's see what tiny llama does. Okay, it's hallucination score 1, because the actual output positive. The sentence indicates that the speaker was satisfied with the service provided by the restaurant. What if I set another context? What context should I set with that relatively easy classification problem? Statement is not neutral. This statement is not positive. Yeah, it understood and got the context. While the context clearly states that the sentiment is negative, not neutral, not positive. Okay, that's great, I think. Just out of curiosity, I would like to see what stable LM2 does. The actual output, yeah, classic stable LM, it is over explanation. That was one built in. Yeah, maybe we can go in that direction. Let's see what is these metrics and how it can be used. For example, if we could set, let's just assume that all these three large language models has been fine-tuned constantly and evolving through several epochs, and after each epoch we can execute these 10 questions or 20 or even 30 question regression set, for example. Let's call it regression set, and evaluate it by this, and it can be set into a pipeline, yes, which will provide us information about the epoch's performance, how good it was. Yeah, I think I like that, even if it's used ChatGPT. Nothing that I can judge because I also use ChatGPT for that. Ooh, yeah, I think there's many things to read and know, but right now what is in my head to choose some different metrics and have these responses and prompts being evaluated automatically, and I think that should be the output or the outcome and the conclusion for this session. Not really this session, but the overall, when I just explained before. So when the edited video will be out, I will do some additional steps and make it a complete whole. That's the goal for that time, to have the same prompts with a few 3 or 4 DeepEval metrics and evaluate the answers based on those. I mean evaluation, I mean that it is passed or failed, so it responded good or bad, and we will see that if it does it correctly. So I will check on the results. So as a first step, let's introduce another metric, and the third one maybe, for the very same question. Preparing that. Okay, DeepEval is the, as I read, chain of thoughts to evaluate LLM outputs based on any custom criteria. The DeepEval metric is the most versatile type of metric. Summarization is not a good way to do that because I don't have test prompt for the summarization. Answer relevancy. How relevant the actual output? Okay. DeepEval's answer relevancy metric is self-explaining, meaning it outputs the reason for its metric score. Uses an LLM to extract all statements made in the actual output before using the same LLM to classify whether each statement is relevant to the input. Okay, I think I understood. Maybe we can use that. Okay. Okay, I'm pretty confident that it will work. In this case, I think we should set a custom. I mean the custom metric on DeepEval, evil G, but DeepEval. Let's do that correctness metric, which is in the example. Maybe we can add that as well, the unnecessary verbosity as a metric, as a DeepEval metric, because it's a different kind of, it doesn't really connect it with the correctness of the answer. Okay, it's LLM test case parameters is the input and the test case parameters actual output. So these are the two parameters for that correctness. We have that the input and the actual output. See this correctness. Oh, wait just a sec. You can only provide either criteria or evaluation steps and not both. Let's see what it will produce to us. I'm really excited to see that. Okay, and we are testing right now the stable alarm. It's quite exciting and astonishing to watch. It's really, I feel like I'm using a usable tool with a low for me it feels like a relatively low threshold to even start working with it. Okay, it calculates like mad, but it advances. It's done. It's done. Oh, it's 100% pass rate. Nice. Not hallucinating, relevant answer, and the correctness. The given sentence is negative in sentiment. To use a disappointment and service I received. Person with spoke these words, a disappointing experience. I'm quite speechless to be honest. It's awesome. It's awesome to have that. Okay, let's add the verbosity. Determine whether the actual output is overly. Maybe that's the point when it would be needed to try out the evaluation steps. How was that? The evaluation steps. Not using the criteria, but the evaluation steps. Yes. Okay, check. without losing relevant information. Maybe then, oh, okay, then in this case I just need the criteria, because that's pretty much maybe I should include something. Okay, and the if it can be answered in a shorter way, answers verbosity overly verbose metric. It is overly verbose, and it should have that. What is the GUO? List of string outlining exact steps the LLM should take for evaluation is not provided in the series based on the criteria. The passing threshold defaulted to 0.5. Strict mode, async mode defaulted to true. Verbose mode within the measure method. Yeah, it can be used to several test cases. Check if the shorter answer is, let's say, shorter by 70%. That's way more than I think it can be acceptable according to my taste of my mouth. Overly verbose, and let's add that to the list. Overly verbose. Got it. Execute it. Okay, it started with the answer relevancy metric. Okay. Correctness done. Overly verbose done. Hallucination done. Done. Okay, test finished. The actual output provides a detailed explanation that could be significantly shortened to just say the sentiment is negative, making it much longer than necessary. Okay, so it understood the task. It's really great. Yeah, that's awesome. I really feel like that's awesome. Okay, let's try out with the other three models, and after I think I call the end of the session and get all these mess a bit structured way to the when the edited video will be out. So it's a great try out. Let's see the tiny llama. Yes, let's check the tiny llama, and after let's check the phi3. Tiny llama is okay. What is the actual output? The sentiment is neutral response to a past experience, indicating no opinion on that event. Yes, it clearly hallucinated. Answer relevancy. Output fails to classify the sentence as positive, negative, or neutral, and instead provides irrelevant analysis and discusses mixed feelings. It's not completely true, because it stated that it is neutral. The statement is neutral response. May suggest a mix of relief, annoyance, disappointment, or indifference towards the experience, but yeah, but I can agree on the answer relevancy. Correctness. The actual output classified the statement as neutral, while the input clearly conveys a negative sentiment with phrases like very disappointed. Yeah, it's not correct. Overly verbose. Actual output is incorrect, as it classifies the sentence, but it not was okay. I think it was not the task. I mean, what DeepEval should do. It's not good, and I really started to thinking that answer relevancy score shouldn't be 0, because the answer is clearly relevant, but it is a relevant answer but incorrect answer. After the initial dopamine and adrenaline rush of the nicely working fancy tool, maybe I just need to reconsider a bit the evaluation step. Let's see what it produces. For the V3, I would assume that it will be all passed. Maybe the verbosity not, but the verbosity it is okay. What is the actual negative? The statement clearly expresses dissatisfaction. It's a relatively compact answer, so I think it should pass the overly verbose. There's no factual alignments, and all provided indicate that the actual output consistently agrees with the context, leading to no hallucinations. Answer relevancy, perfectly relevant and addresses the input directly. Actual output accurately classifies the sentence as negative and provides correct explanation. I can agree on that. Yeah, but with the smallest model, with the tiny llama, I think the tiny llama would pass the answer relevancy and would fail the let's jump that back a bit. Yeah, it would fail the overly verbose metric, but for a different reason, because the reasoning is incorrect, because the actual output is incorrect. Maybe I should use that. Let me just try that one out before I call it an end. I'm really annoyed, and I think I would use just the criteria. Check whether the actual come on, actual input can be output can be shorter without losing relevant information on answering the actual input. Yeah, that's the reason why I modified this, because come on, sorry, yeah, because this. So for accurate and valid results, only the parameters that are mentioned in criteria should be included as a member of evaluation parameters. So I mentioned evaluation parameters input and actual output. So I should mention actual output and actual input. Answering the input. Yes. I'm really interested about the result. If it could be different, or it doesn't really matter that I change the language and the criteria. So I changed the evaluation steps to criteria, and I rephrased the criteria to match the evaluation parameters, naming as actual input, actual output and input. The actual output incorrectly classifies, despite, okay, it also contains redundant information such as the lack of specificity, which is irrelevant to sentiment classification. That was not the task. It is about the length of the answer. Length of the actual output would mean the same, because I think that should, or not should, but I think it could mixed up, because I use as a relevant word, and I think ChatGPT can hallucinate it on that. Yeah, that's a good example of using large language models as an oracle. Misclassifies the sentiment which clearly negative and provides an incorrect explanation of sentiment. At least the answer relevancy. Yeah, it's right on that. Yeah, let's wrap this up, and I will check on that, but I would like to have that checked, this overly verbose answer with this DeepEval metric. It's just a matter of prompting, it seems like. Yeah, here I am in big. Yeah, so that was all for today. It was quite an interesting session. I think I really enjoyed it. Much more even than the previous one, but that was also great. So I think we pretty much dip our toe in DeepEval. Yeah, I can't really wait beginning of next week when I will continue the work. on this particular task. Maybe you can share your thoughts in the comment. Of course, video will be out. You're watching the video. You won't forget to push on the subscribe button if you have not before, and push on the like button also, and follow me on LinkedIn and check what I'm up to, what I'm dealing with right now. It's the tooling of the LLM testing tasks. Also, let's check Twitter as well, because I usually post similar things, but it can be quite different at times. Let's enjoy the rest of the week and expect more to come. Thanks for watching, and see you next time, guys. Bye bye.